And I took the job because then Bishop Walker was very interested in creating an inclusive continuing care retirement community, now called Life Plan Communities. That community included inclusiveness having to do with affordability. And as a consequence of that, the Diocese of Washington gave money that became, at the outset, seed money to attract funding and to cover expenses until the organization had permanent financing to enable the organization to get off the ground. Then, when the money was recovered with the financing, because it was very much designated to those funds are going to be used to create an opportunity for people who don't have the funds to afford living in a continuing care retirement community, which is often thought of as available to about 5% of the population, was used to enable people who would otherwise never have been able to consider it. Because we could take people who were very much at the edge of having the necessary funds to live there. That fund has now grown to millions and does a lot of work at Collington, which has dropped its Episcopal Life Care Community name because, for the same reason that Episcopal Ministries for the Aging chose to move towards Seabury, it's very useful not to pigeonhole. And that's where it all began. So was I aware of what was going on with regard to affordable housing from the direct direction of what was happening with Episcopal Ministries, then Seabury? Absolutely. Did I know how we were different and synergized together? Absolutely. Joe was the founding exec, and fortunately we have Dawn Quattlebaum, who's now in that role, and it's a very, so I've had a string of involvements throughout. Affordable housing is a difficult topic. My role after leaving Collington was to think about the 95% of the population who wouldn't consider for a millisecond, one, living in an age-segregated community, and two, didn't have the resources to afford, even with help, the kind of sources or resources that Collington requires. So, and I will just underscore age segregated because that's something that Seabury knows very well, that multi-generational actions underscore life course aging. When you're born, you're aging. We talk about you're a week old. We talk about you're a month old. That's aging at the very beginning. And I'll just do it a little aside. If you are focused on the fact that people have disadvantages from the very outset, or they have no disadvantages, they've got every resource applied and love that's concentrated on, or there's something in between. But those who have a miserable life into which they're born have, I'll say, two strikes against them to begin with, and why it's important to be mindful that those who are growing older but not, or who are future older people, need to have concentrated thinking about how we can make sure we avoid what Seabury addresses with people who are older now. So it's very important, and Collington, by the way, same thing. So it's really important to think about earlier in life rather than just concentrating on. And the job I have now, just left a week ago, for the city, was I was the first person in the role, as I am with every job I take. Somehow or another, that's been my career, is I'm the person who makes it happen. And I like that role. It's very nice because you can set the stage and bring in the people who are going to be the actors and just watch the whole thing flourish, because I've never failed to accomplish what was intended to happen. But the issue that Age Friendly saw in the job that I just left in Seabury was a partner in creating housing. Housing is about choices. Many people we know from the studies that AARP has done and the way people act is people want to stay where they are as much as they possibly can, stay where they are throughout their lives. The good death is going to bed one night and not waking up. That happens to some. It doesn't happen to most, but it happens. So that background made us rub shoulders again when I took the role with the government, because Seabury was doing one piece of a very broad opportunity that we had, because the World Health Organization, which gave the framework to what DC undertook, was to look at the social determinants of health, housing being a very important part of that, was to get into the depth of how we could make that experience of affordable housing possible for people to do what they want to do, which is to stay where they are, or at least in the same neighborhood that they're in, or at least somehow staying in touch with the people who they were part of. Now, loneliness and isolation is a problem for us in DC, and I'm going to say across the world. Age Friendly works very hard on making that social participation happen. One of the advantages of the housing that has been created by Seabury is the opportunity to interact with people in a congregate setting. And that's very valuable. So if people can get themselves past, I'm going to have to leave some stuff behind, I'm going to have to pare down what's important to me, or ask the next generation to think about what they might want of the stuff that I've accumulated, or give it to a good cause so that it's placed. And I would include paper in that, by the way. Paper is really a challenge for all of us. You want to keep some record, but now we've got the ability to digitize anything. And if we can get people thinking, I got it, it's just in a digital file, it's not in a file cabinet, then the cabinet can go. And we can go on from there. But what happens when people move into a congregate setting is everyone welcomes the newbie. The newbie is interesting. Where's your life coming from, and how did you get where you are? And what created your interest in moving in with us? And then taking advantage of the various opportunities, often driven by the people who live in the community, to become engaged. What I like about Seabury is that there's a real focus on becoming part of the community in which wherever the housing is. So it's not a question of we're a little island in a place. It's we're part of what's around us and attracting into the community with various incentives, and I won't go into that, but there are various incentives that Seabury uses to bring. I'll give you an example. The DC Public Library has a very good relationship with Friendship House. I mean, there is a close way in which those two work together, and people don't have to bring books anymore. Those books can be given to the library and borrowed from the library, and that's what Friendship House and the libraries have worked together to create a close relationship. So I would say we benefited greatly as a city from Seabury and how it has helped many people who could otherwise not afford to live in the kind of housing that Seabury has created, many of whom might have otherwise ended up on the street, which is a shame, but Seabury's there. It's like being the catcher in a baseball game. They're there and can catch the fly balls and catch the foul balls and make that possible for those individuals to land in a safe and comfortable place and be among people they care about. I'm stopping because I've wandered, and I know I've wandered, but most people are going to have challenges as they grow older, and those challenges are going to be something that all of us need to be prepared to surmount. And we as a community need to be ready to support their inclusion. This summer, Age Friendly DC is going to call upon Seabury to be involved in a 2025 block by block walk through neighborhoods. What we are hoping is that many at Seabury who lived in neighborhoods that they left in order to move to a safe, comfortable, sociable place that Seabury runs, many of them will join us in their old neighborhood to see what the safety issues are that could be improved either through city services or through organizations like Seabury that can support those individuals who are not ready yet to release their involvement with those old neighborhoods. There's nobody who knows better a neighborhood that they've lived in for, and when I talk to groups, when I say, how long have you lived in your neighborhood? And I start with 20 years and almost every hand goes up, and then you go to 30 and 40 and 50. There are still hands in the air when we're talking past 50 years. So people have lived there since they were very young and want to stay there for obvious reasons. Seabury offers them services too, as we know. I mean, this is not, Seabury focuses on choices and allowing people to stay in the setting that they've grown to feel is the way until, as you say, I mean, there's pressures. There's pressures from family who are worried, from the community who is, I don't know whether she's going to be okay tomorrow, to get into some kind of a situation where they're supported. So I think we're very lucky that Seabury is around and has grown from where it began to where it is now.
This is all great. Let's see, I'm just looking at my questions here. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what it means to you to be recognized by Seabury as an honoree.
Let me just note to you that every recognition is an opportunity to describe, from my perspective, which is a long experience, what can be done with those opportunities to change minds, to affect people's thinking, whatever it is with regard to the stereotypes that they have formed about the organization or about individuals. It's very important to me when I receive recognition to take that opportunity to use the loudspeaker that has been created to share insights that have come from connecting the dots as I've aged. And I have been through this from a very early point. So it's really a value from a loudspeaker point of view, from my perspective. Rudyard Kipling wrote a poem called If. I'm saying that in such a way that you didn't understand it. If you can meet with triumph, we're talking about recognition. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. I don't get recognized every week, and I don't have disasters. I haven't had a disaster in a very long time. But when those disasters happen, it's an imposter, just as the recognition is. And taking the opportunity that comes from that and using it for the benefit of the recognition that the organization has provided, as well as to, if you will, demonstrate my abilities as and I'm going to call it, you call it communications, I call it salesmanship. Because communications to me equals salesmanship. You're trying to deliver a message, and I am trying to deliver a message that growing older is part of life. It's just, if you're lucky, going to happen to as many as we see around us. That opportunity is filled with chances to give back, to affect behaviors, to alter stereotypes about the people around us and why people have grown to think that individuals who have differences, we all have personal differences, are simply the first thing you see. You have to dig a little bit with people you're not used to talking to find out more about their lives. And that's, as we grow older and look differently than people want to look, we have to sell ourselves in a way that enables people to see beyond the visible and see what's inside that individual and why they're special. So I think it's really an opportunity. Thank you very much, Seabury, for giving me this triumph, going back to If and the Kipling reference, to speak out with the megaphone that you're creating.
Great.
Solution is one that we need to take on, and that's home sharing.
Yes.
And
I
I'm
love home
going to
sharing
hold myself up as a poster child. We constantly have somebody living with us. We have a 2-bedroom apartment in the District of Columbia. The second bedroom is the gymnasium, the library, the workspace, and the bedroom for whomever it is who's living with us at the moment. The current occupant is our granddaughter, who really wants to work in New York and doesn't really want to be living with us. But we've had so much fun with every one of the people who live with us because they become part of the cooking establishment. They become part of the, what are we doing with plays? Well, we can pick up the ticket for you too, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it's having a relationship with somebody who might start out as a stranger. I mean, we've housed strangers for years. It's just an opportunity. And it breaks down this generational stuff that we are perfectly capable of putting up barriers and saying, well, I can't talk to her because she's in another world than I am. And I can help people who are at a different point in their lives, and I can be helped, oh my goodness, tremendously, by somebody who is at a different point in their lives. I'd love to meet your daughter, for example.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of person that would broaden my awareness of stuff. Anyway, so home sharing is my answer to us, and let me tell you that idea goes over like a lead balloon. People forget that they begin their lives in their post-college years happy to live with friends. This is another opportunity. Again, it's that break because we think generations that are different can't get along, can't benefit one another.
Enjoy
It's
one another,
crazy.
yeah.